to provide them something different, i.e., for example, they might say, you allowed me to park that mobile home on the lawn, and you're saying absolutely not. Well, this clause is going to cover it. If you've been around the real estate investing business long enough, you know that there are those stories out there, and these things have happened. So this is to guard against that, and is a preventative clause and measure so that you're going to sign to that effect up front. Attorney's fees. If either party to this agreement shall bring a cause of action against the other party for enforcement of the agreement, the prevailing party shall recover reasonable attorney's fees involved. Makes sense. If they try to sue you and they lose, then they got to pay your attorney's fees. Option to purchase. Landlord-seller grants to tenant-buyer the right to purchase the above property at any time during the term of this agreement. Landlord-seller agrees that upon exercise of the option, tenant-buyer shall be credited in escrow with, you put the amount, that's going to be the deposit, for each month rental payment of, and applied toward the purchase price. Okay, basically what's happening in a lease option situation is, let's say that you had a rent of $1,000 a month that the tenant was paying. Well, what I would do is I would state to them that if you choose to exercise the option to buy this property from me at that future value price of the property that you're going to determine, and we'll get into that in a few moments, then I'm willing to put 15% or 20% of your monthly rent toward the down payment on the purchase price of the property, which is great because it acts in consideration. So literally, the tenant doesn't have to pay $1,000 rent all along, and then in the end, have to come up with the entire price. So they feel that it's a win-win. What this also does as an added benefit to you as a landlord-seller is it's helping create more rapport with the psychology in the mind of the tenant that they are going to own the property, and they will treat it as if it's their own home rather than just a rental property, and take care of it. And likely, in many, many, many cases that we've seen, the tenant actually improves the property and starts caring for it as if it's their own before they even exercise the option to buy. And sometimes they don't even exercise the option to buy, but they've improved your property and your values go up. So this is all part of the conditioning. So in this case, let's say it's 20% of the monthly rent of $1,000. So you're going to say $200 from each monthly rental payment of $1,000 and applied to the purchase price. The purchase price shall be, you put the purchase price at the time the option is exercised, less any designated option consideration rent credit. This is a rent credit, B, and here you're putting the purchase price. Now in a lease option situation, it's highly recommended that what you do is you are going to take the property and determine the future value or sale price of that property at 10% above current fair market value today per year. So 10% per year. And the reason for that is twofold. Number one, historically, real estate nationwide appreciates 10% a year. Locally, though, it can go up or it can go down. But that's the claim you make to the tenant. Over time, real estate goes up, and that's the truth of the long term. Number two is that you haven't even qualified them for a mortgage yet, but you're offering them the right to purchase your property and live in it. And so you do have some risk that's involved in this scenario, this situation, because if they don't choose the option to purchase the property, you could have lost potential sales. And right now, your hands are kind of tied and bound that you can't sell this property to somebody to create it as their own home because you're entered into this agreement. Therefore, because you're taking on more of the risk than you would in a typical sales situation, it's 10% higher than fair market value is today. And you're putting a portion of their rent towards the down payment of that property. This is just a win-win.